Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. I'm Ken Tucker, and today I'm joined as usual by Ian and Paul. Welcome, guys. Together, we are your marketing guides. So, this is a topic that we probably cover a lot on this show, but I hope that if we do, you realize that it's just incredibly important. And that is the topic of content. So, most businesses don't create nearly enough when it comes to creating content. We're going to talk about how to create a content plan, why you need one, and some ideas of some of the things that it should include. So, Ian, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What types of content should small businesses use to market their business?
The right kind of content.
There you go.
No, it's a great question. Of course, it depends on your business, but we're going to make some generalizations here for sure. Blog posts, absolutely valuable type of content. And the thing to remember for business owners is that blog posts are just another type of website content that Google would view, right? So, what blog posts allow you to do is really drill down into deeper information related to specific topics than your web page might be about, right? You might be a plumber and you might talk about, hey, we provide drain clearing services, but a blog post might talk about all of the myriads of types of drain clogs that could happen and how you solve those solutions or provide a solution for that. Social media posts, great type of content. Again, you want to be where your audience is. So don't blow your brains out on social media unless you know where your audience is first. But you can do fantastic things on social media, like engaging your followers, whether they're clients or prospects. You can promote specials and events if you're doing events. Email newsletters. Again, we've talked about this topic a fair bit in our podcast, but if you haven't heard our newsletter or email episodes, you should go check those out. But email is often the forgotten child of marketing because some people are predisposed, some business owners especially are predisposed to not liking email because they get so much spam. But remember, if you create an email newsletter and you're providing it to people that have subscribed and continue to subscribe, then this is a valued relationship that you have. And email stats show that it's one of the top performing types of marketing that you can do in this trusted relationship. Videos are huge. You can use videos to showcase your business's products or services in action. A lot of people, especially in the trades, think you can't use video, but man, you can do so many cool videos. We have an electrician that's done stuff where he's in the full electrical protection, silver garb with the mask and everything, and talked about that, why he wears this arc flash resistant clothing in particular circumstances. And people really dig that kind of stuff. Infographics. Infographics are really cool because it's a visual way to show kind of complex ideas in simple ways. So if you grew up reading comic books or you're visually you enjoy consuming information visually, excuse me, infographics are a great way to do that. Customer testimonials. Man, we could talk about customer testimonials and reviews forever because of their power right now. They're so powerful for a business. And you need to be generating that type of content and encouraging your clients and customers and patients to be leaving reviews so that Google sees them. Landing pages that convert website visitors into leads and customers, very powerful. These are all kind of digital things. Don't forget about content that is traditional. So traditional type of content is still really valuable today, depending on your business, right? Sales support materials like flyers, sales sheets, case studies, maybe phone scripts is even a type of content that you can produce for your team. all of that kind of stuff. Think about the buyer's journey. Think about what they need in order to make an informed decision, and do that. Even presentations are a type of content. So if you're presenting things to people, again, complex ideas, you might want to have a presentation deck that you can do. And again, that converts really easily into video. And just didn't mention this. We talked about landing pages, but your website, man, you should be updating the content on your website on a continual basis, right? It should never be entirely static. Google likes fresh content, so you want to make sure you're updating that. But it's important for small businesses to find the content marketing channels that work best for their target audience and their particular industry.
Yeah. I love the fact that you didn't just talk about digital. I mean, radius marketing materials, for somebody who does home services, yard signs, door hangers, a thing, signs on your vehicles, when you're driving through neighborhoods. All of those things are really important. And again, tie it all together. Don't just have them be individual tactics here or there. If you're going to put a yard sign in, send them to a page where you can tell that people are actually getting to you and deciding to engage with you because they're seeing your yard sign. Could be with a QR code. It could be text
Absolutely.
to such and such, to take them to send them the link to go to the website. But, I think it's always important to use digital to try to track the performance of the offline.
Absolutely. Yeah. And don't forget about trade shows, right? Some businesses used to thrive on trade shows, and those are now back up and going and are big again. People that used to attend trade shows, there's a hunger there to attend trade shows again. So think about the content that, again, your tip about merging the traditional marketing with the digital marketing and the reporting and tracking is so important, because otherwise, how do you know what's working and what's not?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Paul, Ian just laid out, hours and hours and hours worth of work that people probably think
Sorry
they
about
have
that.
to go do. And in many cases, yeah, I mean, it's more important to create good content than it is to just produce a bunch of crappy content, because crappy content is going to cause you a whole set of problems. But having said that, let's talk about repurposing. So how can a business repurpose content to use it in other marketing channels?
Yeah, that's a good point because a lot of times, the business they create content and they don't realize that you can take that content and use it in other places and on other channels. So, you can take a blog post and take different parts of that blog post, put it on social media, and then link back to the full blog post. And if you do a video, and we've talked about this in the past, video doesn't have to be a complicated thing. You can use your phone to create a video, and then that can be transcribed and put onto your onto your website and used as a blog post. It can be used in an email newsletter. You can embed that video. You can put that video, say, on YouTube, and then embed that video on your website. With blog posts, don't forget that you can, again, take part of that blog post, do a Google post, and then link back to that blog post. You can use that in press releases. Do a press release and link back to that full blog post. If you have infographics, you can take sections of that infographic and put that on social media and then link back to the full blog post on your website. It's all about driving traffic back to your website. Same thing if you have let's say you have a pillar page or a hub page on your website, you can take one of a blog post that hub page is linking out to, put it on social media, and then put a link back to that blog post, and also a link back to that hub page, so that you're driving people not just to that blog post, but to that hub page that talks about that entire concept that hub page is talking about. A podcast, can be transcribed and used as a blog post, and again, it can be sectioned out and used for social media updates. So just because you have a piece of content, whatever it is, a video, a blog post, a webinar, it doesn't mean that it's a one and done thing. You can take this. We talked about omni-channel marketing and being on the correct channel for your audience. You can take any piece of content and use it on another channel.
You know, one thing that I know we talked about, Ian, in our book that we did, content for local search, is, I find this to be the case myself all the time. I'm asked questions by a client and I start writing a response by email, and I get halfway, 3/4 the way through it, and it's like, this is a blog post. Because if this question's being asked by this client, there are a bunch of other people who probably have that same question. And if it's not long enough to be a blog post, it's probably something that might need to go onto your website as a frequently asked question. So, harvesting all of the stuff that you send out by email or even in your proposals, a lot of that stuff you could turn in and use in other channels. So don't forget about that.
You frequently ask questions and should ask questions. That could be a social media post that links back to that page on your website.
Yeah.
Yeah, the questions that people ask, whether they're clients or especially if they're prospects, right? Writing those down, talking to you, if you have teams of people, front-facing, client-facing people, whether it's customer service people, whether it's reception, whether it's payment processing, especially salespeople, right? You should be sitting those people down and really asking them, what are the questions that people are asking? And it evolves, right? As you as a business become more sophisticated and better at communicating the answers to these questions, people will have other questions, right? They'll want to dig deeper because you've already easily answered those questions. So I think those are, so important.
Yeah. So Ian, how much content should a small business create to be effective with its marketing?
The right amount. That's my that's my answer to every question you ask, Ken.
Well, that's like, how long should a blog post be? Long enough to convey the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share a few thoughts about this because there's no pat answer, right? There's no perfect answer to that question for every single business across the board. But let me give you a few tips or thought provokers that I think will be helpful in helping you as the business owner figure this out, right? So the amount of content is really about being effective. It's not about, you talked about quality over quantity, Ken. And this is kind of the same concept, that you want to have effective content, not just huge amounts of content. Is there value in huge amounts of content? Yes, there, potentially, as long as it's good content, because that can send people from Google, the gatekeeper, to your website, right? But it's better to create a small amount of high quality content than a large amount of low quality content. And I'll explain why in a second. Consistency is huge, right? You want to be, especially if you're sharing stuff, whether it's through an email channel, whether it's through, you could even be doing it texting now, but usually it's through email, usually it's through social media, or if you have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel, right? Whatever your channel of preference is, you want to be consistent because you've created, if you're creating good content, you've created a hunger for that good content. So you want to be consistent in delivering that because you stay top of mind. And you protect yourselves from the competition as well when you do that. But the audience is the key here. You're creating content. Yes, there's if you're doing it for SEO, there's value in that, but always put the audience first. It's those are the people that you're trying to attract. Those are the people you're trying to communicate and add value to. You want to make sure it aligns with their interests and their goals, their pain points, the questions they have. And the other point I would say is you really want this, I think, is very helpful in determining how much content you need. And that's looking at it through the filter of the marketing hourglass or the buyer's journey. So being focused on the journey that your buyers and your clients or patients or customers are taking, even post-purchase, will help you determine what is the need for content. And this is true on every single channel. So understanding how your ideal clients, your audience consumes information and what information they're consuming that helps move them through their buyer's journey is so helpful, right? And because different channels can be used at different phases or stages of the buyer's journey, that will help you fill that hourglass and that journey. But with that being said, there's kind of a general rule that most businesses should probably be aiming to create at least one piece of content per week. If you use that as kind of your benchmark, it's a pretty low benchmark because some companies are creating 3 blog posts a day, but that it all depends on your audience and how much they consume. But this could be a blog post, it could be a video, it could be a podcast episode, it could be a social media update, it could be an email newsletter. But if you set that as, here's our target, we're going to produce one piece of content per week, then you'll have a benchmark, right? Of this is what it's producing. If we were to raise that, if we were to double that, would we see incremental results? And some businesses choose to create a lot more content than this, depending on their audience, their goals, their resources. But it's important to find the right balance because creating content is costly. It costs you time, energy, and money. And so it's important to, ensure that it's part of your overall marketing plan.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it comes down to your audience, what they need,
Yeah.
and then also what do you need to be able to get in front of them, in the right channels, and whether that's, on social media or, as I'm going to transition over to Paul here with a question for local search engine optimization. There are pieces of content that you create for completely different purposes, still serving the same target audience. But Paul, I wanted to ask you specifically, what types of content should a small business be creating to help with local search engine optimization, or what we call local SEO?
Well, let's start with directories, local business listings, things like that. Make sure that the first thing you need to do is, because you have these data aggregators out there and these different directories, and you have to make sure that your location data is consistent across all of those directories. Because we see this all the time where they'll have, someone's been in business for a long time, phone numbers have changed, address has changed, and they'll have inconsistent data. And Google does not like that. It goes back to the trust factor. So the first thing you need to do from a local SEO standpoint is make sure that all of that data is consistent. And that is content. We don't think of that as content, but as far as Google's concerned, it is content. It's local business content. And if you, let's say you've changed addresses 3 times, you've been in business for 30 years, whatever, and you've changed addresses 3 times and you have 3 different addresses out there, that's a trust issue as far as Google's concerned, which one's correct. So you have to make sure that all of that is accurate across all the directories and all the data aggregators. And then you have locations, that also ties into local events and local specific content. So you create content that's specific to the business's location, like the best places to eat in whatever the location is, things to do in whatever location, a guide to tourist attractions in a certain city, and you can use those location pages, as we call them, to create social media updates. You can sponsor local events, and that'll increase your visibility. Customer reviews, that's content. People don't think about it, but that's content. And pull those reviews, like pull those Google reviews onto your website. If you have Yelp reviews, link out to your Yelp reviews from your website. Uh, Photos, videos about things to do locally. It doesn't have to be written content necessarily. You can do videos about things to do in that local area. Do GMB posts about that particular location, because that helps build trust and authority with Google, that you're in this community, you serve this area, and all those things. It has a cumulative effect, and Google starts to take notice of that. So all these things are going to help with your local SEO. And if your competition's doing nothing, just doing a couple of those things is going to benefit you. So creating this content, it has to be relevant. And the more, I don't want to get too deep here, but the more interlinking you can do with these different things and these different types of content, like I said earlier, doing a Google post and linking back to the website, just taking a small snippet of a blog post, doing Google post, linking back to that blog post on your website, doing a press release and linking back to that blog post on your website. All those types of things are going to help your local SEO. And then you have your schema and meta tags, because local schema helps, again, that because with Google, it's not a person looking at the website, it's a Google bot. Okay. It's a web crawler, and schema helps that web crawler understand what a page on your website is about. And that's getting into the more technical aspect of things, but all these things add up, and they help increase the strength of your local SEO.
Yeah, you talked about expertise, authority, and trust. And you create content on your website, but there are also a whole other places that you need to be looking at and thinking about. And I mean, they call it the web for a reason, and I mean, it's just simple, intuitive stuff that I think people just kind of gloss over and they don't think about. But Google loves the interconnectedness of all of this stuff. When it sees that authority pieces of content on one website are linking to other pieces of content that it sees relevant and authoritative, or trustworthy and whatnot, the strength of the signal is amplified. But, getting all of these signals in place is hugely important. And I think a lot of people think, and a lot of people are sold SEO packages where all it is basically, okay, we're going to fix your metadata, your page titles, we're going to make sure your on-page stuff is okay. Well, that's okay, but that's only a small piece of local search engine optimization. It's really all about the signals that need to be sent and created in addition to the content and the way they interact and really tie together.
Yeah, and Google has been making massive changes to their algorithms. They're moving more towards themes and entities and semantic content. And I think I forwarded you an article a while back. It was I think it was John Mueller from Google. Someone was asking about backlinks, and he said that they're moving in a direction, because backlinks have always been really important, and now they're moving in a direction where backlinks may be less important as a ranking factor. So your content and the consistency of your business data across the web is going to become even more important. So that Google's not sitting still. They're good, bad, or indifferent. They're making massive changes, and you have to be aware of what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and also, when you look at what Google says is important for a Google business profile, it talks about relevance, prominence, and proximity. So proximity is going to cover, that immediate location, close by where the business is operating out of. Prominence is driven by the quality of the reviews and the signals that are sent from all of these other websites. Even if they're not links, a citation on a directory site that Google sees as a trustworthy source is still, it feeds into that. And then you've got the relevance. Do you serve the area that you serve? Do you say that on your website? Do you prove it on your website? Do you have content to support that on the website? Did you tell your Google business profile, this is the area I serve? All of these things are interconnected. And so, I think local SEOs, it's a really fun thing to do, in my opinion. I mean, we love it, but it takes a lot of work, and it's not just something that you flip a switch and make happen.
Yeah, and the proximity thing, that's a good point. It's something to keep in mind, because we see this a lot as well, that you have a plumber that's in a certain location, but they want to rank in a location 15 miles away because it's more lucrative. And there's, 75 plumbers between them and the location they want to rank in. And that's going to be a difficult thing to do. And if you're in a really competitive area, you might have to actually get a location in that area, because Google likes proximity from a local SEO perspective. And if you're, like I said, if you're 15 miles away and there's 75 plumbers between you and where you want to rank, you might not be able to do it from a local SEO perspective.
We're not talking about doing anything hinky or false, or setting up just a shingle on an address.
No. It would have to be a real physical location. And yeah, that's going to cost you some money, but if you can rank there and if that location is that important to you and it's that lucrative, in the long run, it might be worth it.
Yeah. Ian, this is something I was thinking about, just that I know we covered again in our book, and I kind of went back and referred to our book a little bit, just because I think it's a really great source. Very proud of it. Shameless plug, but I think it is very valuable. And one of the things we started with is that you can't just do this in a vacuum. So talk about why strategy is content's best friend when it comes to marketing for a small business.
Absolutely. Strategy. Strategy first, people. Strategy is, and I just want to kind of clarify, because there has been confusion sometimes when I've spoken with people about strategy, that when we talk about strategy, I especially see this in the real estate business for some reason. And I think it's because a lot of marketers in that particular industry talk about, you need this strategy, you need this strategy, you need this, right? It's just this, man, if I have these 50 strategies, I'm going to kick butt. Is that okay to say? Anyways, and
so, you just did. So,
but what we mean is you need a strategic marketing plan, and a strategic marketing plan is the vehicle that aligns everything that you're going to invest in from a marketing perspective to your goals, right? It all starts with your goals. It starts with your audience, who you are trying to attract, who your best clients are that you want to attract more of. It starts with your core message, like what sets us apart from every other plumber, roofer, marketer, dentist, whatever it is. And then what core strategies are you going to use in order to meet those people where they are with your message and your offer in order to move them to become clients, customers, patients? And so, content marketing, if you don't do this strategic plan part, content marketing is an endless pit of content creation with no focus. And what I mean by that is I see lots and lots of businesses out there that are just churning out content. They have their reasons, or what they think are the reasons for doing this. They sometimes think just what we talked about earlier, that quantity is important, and it might even be good quality content, but without a plan, you're just spinning your wheels. You'll probably end up with an excessive amount of content in some area, but not in another area. When I talked about the marketing hourglass, you won't be able to effectively move people from the discovery phase to the buy phase, right? Because there won't be the correct content that they need at those particular phases in order to move them forward. But really, when you're thinking about how to strategically think about content creation, again, strategy first. But now when we start to drill into that a bit, like identify the most effective channels for reaching your audience. So again, you need to define your audience really well. Yes, everyone who has teeth, and even some of those that don't have teeth, are a prospective patient for a dentist. But every dentist should be thinking about who are my favorite, most profitable types of patients, and how am I going to attract them? And where are those people, online, offline? How can I reach them? And think about those people. And strategically think about where they are. And then create content that resonates with those people, because those are the ideal customers, clients, and patients that you want to attract. So a strategy will help you understand the type of content that they want to consume. There's, all of us on this, as guides, we often will do an audit of a business in order to understand what they're doing now from a marketing perspective, and where the gaps are and where the opportunities lie for them from a total marketing standpoint, but also from a content marketing standpoint. And then you need to set up the effective tracking methods in order to determine what content is actually being consumed, which channels are people engaging you on. So you need to put those tracking mechanisms in place. And then, a strategy will also help you save time and resources, because you're highly focused on what is the most important type of content for your target audience. It'll help you avoid random acts of content marketing, which are really, really time consuming. And don't get us wrong. Like, when we talk about that, it doesn't mean you can't create ad hoc content as you see the need arise, but you'll have it within the framework of very strategic content that you're producing. And having a strategic marketing plan also for your content and content marketing plan helps you align your goals and your objectives. I talked about that at the beginning, that's what a strategic marketing plan does. But specifically, when you talk about a content marketing plan, it helps every piece of content you're producing fit within your strategic goals, so that you're not needlessly spending time, energy, or money on producing content that's not going to help you move forward. I already mentioned this before, but I think doing it in a strategic way also helps make sure that you put in the rigor that you need to and draw in the people that you need to within your business in order to better understand what your ideal audience wants, so that you can create the right type of content. But overall, a content strategy helps businesses create and share content that's relevant, it's valuable, and it's aligned with your marketing goals, but also your overall business goals, which will ultimately help them achieve those goals.
and get amplification.
That's right.
Yep, absolutely. So, Paul, I'm going to come back to SEO again. Let's talk a little bit more about how content actually does kind of fuel search engine optimization. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Content is your SEO. I mean, without content, you can't do search engine optimization without content. And we've talked about this in the past, that content is not just blog posts. It's video, it's social media, it's images on Google Business Profile, all of this because if you don't have content, Google doesn't know what you do or what your business is about. So it's search engines. It's not just Google, but search engines in general. They use content to understand what your business is about, what you do, the areas you serve from a local SEO perspective. And like I said earlier, Google is moving more towards themes and entities and semantic content. So you can definitely keywords are still important. They can be used to guide your content, but Google has consistently stressed that you write for people first, and their algorithms have gotten sophisticated, in some ways maybe too sophisticated, because they throw a lot of false negatives out there. But you have to write for people first. If Google thinks you're writing content to try and manipulate search rankings, at best they may choose to just not rank that piece of content, but they can penalize you if you're doing something that violates their policies. So write for people and use keywords to guide the theme and the content, but don't keyword stuff. 10 years ago, whatever it was, you could just take in your footer or on someplace on your website, just stick a bunch of keywords down there at the bottom. And there's still websites out there that do that. That doesn't work anymore. That worked a while back. It doesn't work anymore, and it can actually get you penalized. So, user experience, I think, Ken, you said that it's better to have quality over quantity. Quality, informative content that people want to engage with is better than just producing content for the sake of producing content. So user experience, you definitely have to keep that in mind. And freshness, yes, there is evergreen content that just, like how to program a thermostat. Well, if you have a certain type of thermostat, that how you program that thermostat isn't going to change. But you also have to have updated content. Go back through your website. You may have a blog post that they're good blog posts, and they're generating traffic, but there might be things in that blog post that are outdated. So update old blog posts. If you have blog posts that are no longer relevant, get rid of them and redirect them to a newer piece of content. And then there's the things, the more technical things like internal linking, because Google tries to crawl a website the way a person would navigate through a website. So if you have what we call orphan pages, where there's really no way to get to that page, Google may not index it. Even if you submit a sitemap, just because you have content out there, if you go look at Google Search Console, there's always going to be pages that Google has, for whatever reason, decided not to index. And sometimes that's a matter of internal linking. Even if it's in your sitemap, if Googlebot can't crawl it and get to that website the way a person would get to that web page, the way a person would get to that web page, they may choose to not index it. So internal linking is extremely important, and structured data, schema is, as we call it. And I talked about this earlier, but it helps Googlebot understand what your website is about, what particular page is about, and that is going to help with your local rankings.
Ian, what when it comes to content, again, which is really what we're focusing on today, uh, and I'm thinking predominantly, digital content, stuff that's going to be on your website or in other key places on the web. Um, why should a business focus on the problems that they solve for their customers? How does that really come into play? And is that helpful or hurtful?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's super helpful. Part of the reason why is that people are searching for solutions to their problems, right? Like it's that simple. If I have a toothache, I'm going to be searching for a dentist in my area, and I might be looking up the particular type of toothache I have, or, oh man, I know I need a gentle dentist, right? So that's a solution to a problem. I fear going to the dentist. I need somebody that's a gentle dental practitioner. Or does sedation dentistry, right? They're going to knock me out. I wake up and my teeth are fixed. Woohoo! But the reason it's so powerful is that it first of all, it helps you as a business show empathy. There's a resonance, a vibe you create when you focus on the problems that customers face. You show that you understand them, that you feel their pain, right? And who doesn't want to, if you're choosing a child care business and there's no empathy there, you're probably not going to choose them, right? If there's no humanity there. So you want to make sure that you're showing empathy. It helps you position yourself as the solution to the problem because you're talking about it. If a plumber just shares on their website, here's our services, we do this, and this, but somebody shares how if your toilet is backing up, we have the solution. If your drain is backed up, we have the solution. All of those types of things. It just positions you as the solution provider and not just a service provider. It helps you build trust by demonstrating that you understand the problems that people have, and that you can provide the solutions. It builds trust with your target audience. It drives conversions by highlighting the problems that people have. They are more apt to choose you, to take action, especially if you can create it in such a way. When we've talked about landing pages in the past, there always has to be a call to action. So here's your problem. Here's the solution. Act now, right? Here's how you can get us to solve that problem very quickly. It also helps you to target your marketing by understanding the problems that people have, the challenges they face, the pain they feel. It helps you create a more targeted approach to your marketing so that there's, again, that resonance. It's more effective that way. And it helps you stand out for the competition. I think I explained a scenario there where that's true as well. But if one business shows how they can solve a problem and another doesn't, you ultimately win as the solution provider. But ultimately, it's by focusing on these problems and how you solve them for your customers that you can create content that is more relevant, it's more valuable, it's more effective. Ultimately, it saves you time and money, right? And effort. Because anytime you can be more effective, it helps you do that. And this can help establish your business as an expert in the industry. It helps you build trust with the target audience. And as I said, it helps you drive conversions as well.
Yeah, I heard a whole lot of story brand in there in the answers.
Absolutely. I mean, even the question to me, Ken, when I saw that, I'm like, that's a story brand question because story brand is really about, you have a hero in the story, and that hero is the customer, and you're the guide as the business, and that hero has a problem, and you as the guide are helping them solve that problem. And it's such a great framework to understand people and their problems and how you can be a solution to them.
Yeah, well, and you also talked about empathy, authority, and trust, So, I mean, not only are they looking for a guide that can help them solve their problem, they want to know that they can work with somebody who's been in that, understands their situation, empathizes with them, has the authority and the expertise to, to get it done, and then, is trustworthy as well. So,
I
yeah.
think it's important too for people to remember, for businesses to remember that you are an expert in a particular field, right? As a business, the people that have the problem are not experts in the field. So we as business owners often take things for granted in our business because we're in it every day.
Right.
But when you can reduce the barriers by empathizing with people, by understanding their pain and solving a problem, and show that you're a down to earth business or person that can do this for them, you're creating a human to human connection right there that it takes away the staticness of finding the business online for sure.
Yeah. And if you just list your services, which I think you mentioned, and we've talked about tuck pointing in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, well, your customer may not know what tuck pointing is. They may know that they have a problem, with, the brick around their home or their fireplace or something like that. But they don't know to call it tuck pointing necessarily. Just like, for what we do, we can put a laundry list. We do SEO, we do websites, we do social media, we do this, we do that. Well, some people are going to say, okay, they've been told by somebody, you need to go hire somebody to do SEO. Okay, well, they may make a bad choice and a bad decision because they read it on somebody's website. And I think people are getting more and more sophisticated where they're really looking at, what are you really trying to accomplish? It's not just that you need SEO. There's a bigger problem that you're trying to solve. What is that? You need more customers. You need increased visibility. You need to build relationships with people online and nurture a long sales cycle, and keep getting them to come back to you so that you're top of mind when they're ready to buy. You got to think about all of those things. And when businesses write content that they put on their website, or the company that they hire to do that, way, way, way too many times they just regurgitate the services. Blah.
Yeah.
We do this. Well, that doesn't answer the mail, folks.
Yeah. And Ken, I don't know if you or Paul have sensed this from some of the prospective clients that you talk to, but I definitely see this in my business, and I definitely see it in my clients' businesses, is that we've all made mistakes by who we've chosen to work with in the past, just like you were saying. And there's an embarrassment, right? I find, especially in the SEO or Google Ads or any marketing part of the business owners feel like they should have figured this out by now, and they should have seen that the last business they tried to hire or did hire was not a good business, right? So there's an embarrassment, and I call it talking people off the ledge. It's not really like that, except some of the prospective clients that call me up are people that have given up on marketing. I'm kind of their last call, right? They're like, you seem like a much more legitimate business than the last guys I worked with. Do you understand my pain? And they share their stories of how they've been ripped off or whatever it is, right? And just those conversations, first of all, it's terribly nice as a professional to be able to talk truth and reality of, here's true expectations that you can expect when you do this type of marketing. But also just listening to their pain and helping them unpack that a little bit. It's a little bit like a marketing therapist, right? You've helped them maybe put a little bit more trust that there is a way to do this and do it well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you the last question for the day. We've got a whole lot more that we want to cover, so we'll come back to this in an upcoming episode here. But Paul, we just talked about demonstrating empathy, authority, expertise, and trust. Can you kind of go through and talk about some of the ways and some of the types of content that a small business can use to provide the empathy, authority, expertise, and trust?
Yeah, absolutely. And to follow up on what Ian just said, when you get these emails, Google guarantee first page $50. Delete that.
Especially if it's from a Gmail account.
Exactly. That's a really good point. We get these things all the time, and it's from some free email account. If you're getting an email from someone that's gonna do SEO services and they don't have a domain-based email, it's Gmail or Hotmail or whatever it is, why would you even think that's legitimate? But back to your question, yeah, you have to, like, addressing the pain points. People are calling you or contacting you because they have a problem. You know, it's like the old adage, you don't buy a saw because you have some extra money laying around. You buy a saw because you have to cut a board in half or whatever. You know, people are contacting you because they have a problem. So your website and your content, it's not about you or how great you are. It's about, you know, that people have a problem and you have the solution to that problem. Okay, that's kind of the empathy part of it, is that you're saying, look, we understand, we get it, your toilet's backing up and you need it fixed now, and we get it, and we can be out there within an hour and start working on it. And authority, that goes back to the content, and you know, authority, expertise, trust, that kind of all goes together. And that's where all these different kinds of content comes in. And a lot of times businesses say, well, I don't want to tell people how to do something because they're not going to call me. Well, look, you have different types of people out there, and you have people that they're going to do things themselves. And that content is already out there. If you don't put it on your website, your competitor probably is. So that content is out there. And then you have people that I'm not good with these things. I don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know anything about electricity. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to call someone. And then you have people out there, they just have money. They're like, oh yeah, okay, I know how to do this, but you know, I make 300 grand a year. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to hire somebody to do it. I don't care what it costs. So putting this content out there, it builds authority and expertise. And like I said, if someone's hell bent on doing it themselves, that information is already out there. So you may as well just put it out there on your website, because it engages it. You know, it drives traffic to your website and engages people. And a lot of times you have people that they think they're going to do it themselves. So they go to your website and they maybe after reading about what's all involved, they say, well, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this. Or maybe they start to do it and they realize they're in over their head. And if they went to your website because they're going to do it themselves and they realize they're in over their head, you're probably the business they're going to call.
Especially if you're using the plumber situation, if they're in over their head at that point.
Yeah, especially if it's
real.
a sewage backup, that's a bad time to be in over your head.
Yes,
it's a good feeder system. You show people how not to do, how to do a plumbing job, and then they get in over their head, and then they call you, right?
Yeah. Plumbing, generally, you want your plumbing to angle down, not up. You know, that's. But it provides value, and it builds trust, and it establishes expertise. And not only does that help from a customer relationship standpoint, it all goes back to ranking with Google and with a local SEO. So yeah, all content, that's really what content is all about. We talked about in the past. You don't put content out there to manipulate rankings, and Google will recognize that and penalize that for you. And like Google says, write content for people. And that's the same thing with this how-to content. How-to videos are some of the most searched for type of content on YouTube. And I think a lot of times that's where you get into this thing where businesses, I don't want to tell people how to do things. Well, you should tell people how to do things because it builds authority and trust, and they may watch that video and say, yeah, this is beyond my level of expertise. I'd be better off calling this company.
Or even if it does solve the problem and they use that video, they're going to attribute value. Value in advance is a really important concept. And so uh, and we've talked about this before in other podcasts. I remember working with an HVAC company locally. They lose money when they do a service call for programming thermostats, if that's all somebody needs.
Yeah,
you
we've
know
talked about that a
they,
lot in the past.
yeah, they send a technician out. That technician could have gone and done a lot more lucrative, high profit business for that business, and it keeps them from maybe doing some other things that are bigger revenue generators. Record a video, and solve a problem and help people do it. If they still have the problem, and they watch the video and it was a good quality video and it was clear and they just still couldn't figure it out, they're going to contact you. So
And
yeah,
they'll put you at the top of the list of who to call for a new air conditioner, right? Because you've shown
absolutely.
that.
So yeah, Ian, you talked about the marketing hourglass. I mean, you've got to think about, when we're talking about emergency plumbing services, sure, that's something that people are going to take fast action on. But and so you may not have time to nurture them through a know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer, kind of a process. They've got an immediate existential problem they need to have solved right away. They're going to make a fast decision based on the best information they have available because there's urgency there. But for, like you said, Ian, if they need a new HVAC system, in 3 months or 3 years, if you've started to build the relationship with them because of the content that you've put on and building that know, like, and trust, empathy, expertise, authority, all of that stuff is tied together, right? Then hopefully you're going to be top of mind when they have that big problem that they do need to solve, which is the lucrative piece of business for you.
Yeah, that's we've actually talked about that in the past, not so much here, but you have to have different content for different stages of that marketing funnel because, like you just said, Ken, if they have an emergency need, like they have a busted water pipe, they're gonna call someone and get that fixed. But if you're looking at a bathroom remodel or kitchen remodel, that's a long process. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars potentially, and they're probably not going to make that decision in 2 days. They're going to take some time. They're going to do some research. They're going to look at different companies. And that's where you have to have that different content that really builds that trust and expertise. Because even something, if it's not an emergency plumbing situation, look, every industry out there has its scam artists. Okay. I'm not picking on plumbers, but you want to know you're not going to get ripped off. It's like garage door companies. Google is very strict when it comes to garage door companies because there's a lot of, same thing with locksmiths. There's a lot of scam businesses in certain industries, and you have to build that trust and authority and expertise.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I think it's a good place for us to wrap up today. We're going to come back with another episode here in a couple of weeks where we're going to dig into how you can, create content for specific channels. So make sure that you're kind of monitoring what we're going to be covering here, but that'll be in a couple of weeks. Paul and Ian, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. Audience, I'd love for you to let us know how we're doing. If you have any ideas on topics that you want us to cover, or if you just find that this podcast is valuable in helping you understand and solve some of the marketing challenges that you have, I'd love it if you'd go and write a review for us on your favorite podcast platform. That would mean a lot to us. Ian, time to take us out.
All right. Until next week, keep calm and mark it on, people.